AITA for refusing to go back to my BF's country because when I visited, I felt uncomfortable the whole time. I'm a 28-year-old woman from one of those countries where people are considered stoic or cold by foreigners. My boyfriend, 27, is from Venezuela and he is so different from all the people here. Outspoken, charming, flirty, trusting. That's what I liked about him. When he asked me to spend the second half of December in Venezuela visiting his family, I was excited. We would spend the holidays there and come back in the first week of January. I know a bit of Spanish and I've been to Spain before, so I didn't think it would be too difficult. At first it was amazing, this country is so full of surprises and is like another planet, but then there were some problems. I think I'm average looking, I love my self-image but I don't think I'm the best looking woman in the world, but it's like every single man there was amazed by my looks. His family kept congratulating him for catching my nationality, and some people told him when I was within earshot that I was buenísima, so hot. I was whistled at and cat-called in the street. Older men we spoke to even said they wished they had a wife as hot as me, sometimes with their wives right next to them. Random children who looked about 15 or 16 stared at me. Other things that annoyed me were being called mamita or mi amor by random people, or Venezuelans literally calling each other homophobic slurs all the time. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. They also spoke about other women behind their backs in objectifying or derogatory ways. Of course, not every man was like that and most people minded their own business, but I was starting to be afraid to be around men. One night we went to a club and it was horrible. I told my boyfriend to leave early because I felt like every man there was looking at me all the time. I started dressing almost like a monk to try and feel comfortable. I also tried shazamming songs I'd heard on the radio or at parties, and almost all of them were so misogynistic. My boyfriend was dancing with his mom at Christmas and one of the songs literally said, "I'll buy your girlfriend." By New Year I was exhausted. We came back and I immediately felt better, but now his brother is getting married and has sent us invitations. When my boyfriend asked me to go, I said I didn't want to go back to his country. To be clear, he knew I was uncomfortable almost all the time because of the men in his country, because I told him so every time. He has told me that I just need to get used to it and nobody means any harm. I told him no, I don't want to go back, I just can't stand being objectified by a whole country. He is now not talking to me and I'm feeling bad for that I've told him. Maybe I'm being culturally insensitive? Story 2. Landlady kept trying to show my flat without warning. I live in one half of a duplex. The other half is occupied by the owner, my landlady. My landlady is awful. I won't go into detail so you'll just have to take my word for it. Since we live in close proximity, I do everything within my power to keep the peace and prevent either of our daily lives from being too miserable. That patience finally wore out. My landlady decided to sell the entire duplex. Fine by me, I'm protected by my lease and I figure my odds are decent of getting a less shitty landlord out of the deal. Obviously she needs to show the property to prospective buyers. My lease states she needs to give 24 hours notice before entering my half. I told her I'm even fine with less than that as long as she lets me know the night before. I also set her up with a personal code for my alarm so she can get in if I'm not home since I travel frequently. However, even this has been too difficult for her. Had a knock at the door last week. It's the landlady with a nice young couple. She asks if they can come take a quick look. I say no, sorry, I haven't had time to prepare for a showing since she gave me no notice. She pouts and says can they just take a quick peek from the doorway. I stay firm, tell them they can come back tomorrow if they like, and close the door. A few days later I'm heading out the door and bump into my landlady out on the street with a strange man. She says sorry for not calling yesterday but asks if they can go upstairs for a viewing. I say no, I have laundry out that I haven't put away and am not comfortable with a strange man looking at my underwear. She pouts. I'm in a rush and jump into my car. I arrive at work to a notification on my phone. It's my Ring alarm system letting me know my landlady's code was used to deactivate and reactivate the alarm within the last few minutes. She's older and probably has no idea I can see who uses the alarm code. I am seething. That night, I delete my landlady's alarm code from the system. I do not inform her of this. I figure if she needs to show the property while I'm out of town, I'll just deactivate the alarm remotely from my phone. The next week I'm traveling for work. I spend the day in meetings. I check my phone to find a million notifications. Ring has let me know the alarm was tripped. My landlady has called a dozen times, left voicemails, sent angry messages. Yes, she tried to go into my apartment again without giving me a heads up. She was unable to deactivate the alarm. Let me tell you, that alarm is loud. I assume half the neighborhood could hear it. I pay for Ring monitoring, so the police were also automatically called. Since she owns the property, it seems they didn't give her too much grief, but as the neighborhood Karen, boy is she pissed at being the center of drama. But hey, I bet she won't try to go into my apartment unannounced again. Story 3. Steal everything from my MMO account? Bad idea. This is from over 15 years ago. Had a friend recommend I share it here when we reminisced on it recently. A long time ago, me and some friends played a lesser-known MMORPG. We were in a clan/guild with several others that we played with frequently. After a long time playing together, me and one other guildmate began to share accounts. We were able to use both characters at once for various tasks to make things more efficient when the other wasn't online. I know, this was dumb of me to trust a stranger on the internet. And I got burned for it. One day I logged into my account, and all of my items were gone. This included around $200 worth of paid store items I had bought, along with lots of gear I spent hours farming. I eventually talked to a guildmate who said that a few hours prior they had seen where only me and the guy I shared login info with were online. He then left the guild and blocked all of us. Unfortunately, customer service for the game said that if I shared my account info freely there was nothing they could do about it. So I began to enact my revenge. Step 1. Get into his account. He changed his password as soon as he was done looting my stuff, of course, so this proved challenging. So I attempted to do a password reset on his account. Thankfully, one of his security questions was about his favorite hobby or pastime. I knew he talked about paintball frequently, and it turns out that was his answer. So I was able to reset the password to a new one. But I knew he would be able to rechange the password, so I had to act quickly. Step 2. Change the contact email. This was in the days before 2FA, so it allowed me to change the contact email on the account. So I made a new email address to update it to, and then changed the security questions so he couldn't regain access until I got my things back. Step 3. Get as many of my things back as possible. He expected me to try to log in, so he moved most of his items to the in-game bank that had a 4-digit passcode to access. Thankfully, there was no maximum number of attempts. So after guessing all the way through over 100 attempts, including all of the 4 matching numbers, everything that started with 00, and most of the 2-digit repeating numbers, I got into the bank with the code 7171. There were almost all of my items. I pulled them out and had a friend meet me on the map to trade them back over. Step 4. Hold the account hostage. A few of my things were entirely missing still, probably $50 worth. So I kept the account's login info written down for a few days until a new account messaged me. The guy had to create a new account to contact me. He was immediately apologetic and offered to return my things if I gave him the password, but he didn't know I had already gotten into the bank and recovered my items. I let him know, and let him know I needed the equivalent of the other missing items repaid to me before he would get his account back. He tried to beg and play nice, but I held my ground. He decided to try and just play the new character and then ask again a month later, but I held my ground. Eventually, he just decided to quit the game. I've never been a high-tech person, but this was the best petty revenge I've had in my early years.